It's noon in Kiev, and you're watching Our Time. I'll tell you the main news at this hour. I'm Katerina Vishnevska. Hello. So, Russia launched 135 drones at Ukraine overnight into Thursday. About 90 of them were Shaheds. This was reported by the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Ukrainian air defenders neutralized 108 Russian drones in the north, south, and east of the country. Strikes were recorded at 13 locations. And 8 people were injured as a result of the same Russian drone attack on Kamianske in the Dnipropetrovsk region. Several fires broke out in the city, and the roof and floors of one entrance in a 4-story residential building were partially destroyed. Cars were damaged, and an infrastructure facility and a transportation company were affected. The Russian army also carried out strikes on the Sinelnikov district of the region. A municipal enterprise caught fire there. In the Nikopol district, a 5-story building, a private house, and a power line were damaged. And last night, Russia once again attacked the railway infrastructure of frontline communities. This was reported by Deputy Prime Minister, Minister for the Restoration of Ukraine, and Minister for Community and Territorial Development Alexei Kuleba. In the Kharkiv region, Russia tried to disrupt connections with the east of the country. Trains were rerouted to alternative routes. In the Dnipropetrovsk region, strikes targeted the railway's energy infrastructure and one of the stations. Due to damage in the Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia directions, trains are running several hours late. Last night, a power facility in a border community of the Chernihiv district was attacked by Russian drones. This was reported by the Regional Military Administration. A fire broke out at the site of the strike, but it has already been extinguished, and energy workers are working to restore the damaged facility. There are also consequences from Russian drone attacks in other districts. For example, in the Nizhyn district, the transport infrastructure was hit, and in the Koryukivka district, drone debris damaged a residential house and a car. 6 people, including a 10-year-old child, were injured in a Russian strike on Volgograd in the Kharkiv region. This was reported by the Regional Military Administration. The Russians shelled the city last night. As a result of this attack, a residential house and a garage were damaged. A warehouse was also affected, where grain was stored, and a fire broke out there. This was reported by the Kharkiv Regional Military Administration. Over the past day, Russian forces attacked 9 settlements in the region with drones. Private and apartment buildings, businesses, power grids, and railway infrastructure were damaged. Russia is targeting Ukraine's critical infrastructure, everything that provides people with a normal, peaceful life. This is how Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy responded to yet another round of strikes by the aggressor country on Ukrainian cities. He called on partners to increase pressure on Moscow in order to finally force it to make peace. The fact that the Russians continue to strike at the energy sector and civilians shows that the current pressure is not enough. It is very important that America, Europe, and the G7 continue their sanctions and tariff measures against Russian energy trade and finances. And Moscow must finally realize how serious Europe is about self-defense. It's time to make a decision regarding Russia's frozen assets. The political will is already there, and we are counting on the prompt implementation of a technical solution. It is absolutely fair that the aggressor's money should be used for defense against war. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on Telegram. Ukrainian fighters are consistently depriving the enemy of the ability to launch missiles and drones at Ukraine. In temporarily occupied Donetsk, Ukrainian Armed Forces Special Operations Units, together with Brigade Intelligence and the separate Special Purpose Brigade, Taki Madyara, destroyed a storage, assembly, and launch base for Shaheds. The planning of the operation took several months. This was reported by Brigade Commander Robert Brody. Let me remind you that the night before, a series of powerful explosions occurred in Donetsk. A fire and detonation started at the site of the impact. Residents of the city were urged not to approach windows. The strike on Donetsk was also confirmed by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. According to the Ukrainian command, the defense forces also struck the Volgograd oil refinery in Russia. The annual volume of oil product processing at this plant is about 16 million tons. That's almost 6% of all processing in Russia. Fires and explosions have been reported in the area of this target. In addition, Ukrainian fighters attacked 3 oil facilities in temporarily occupied Crimea. And the resistance movement, Freedom of Russia, carried out a series of sabotage operations on the territory of the aggressor country, destroying dozens of locomotives. They were used to transport weapons and ammunition. This was reported by the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. They noted that the partisans managed to disable the control and power supply systems of dozens of machines used to transport military cargo. The strike significantly slowed the movement of Russian resources and affected the stability of supply for Russian army units at the front, the intelligence directorate emphasized. Meanwhile, Sabotage agents conducted reconnaissance of a strategic Russian oil depot in the Oryol region. It supplies 40% of the fuel for Russian army groups operating in the Kharkiv and Kursk directions. Sabotage reported that the Russians are trying to protect the facility by stretching special anti-drone nets over the storage tanks. But these precautionary measures are useless. The partisans have already obtained the exact coordinates of all key facilities and their layout diagrams, and all information about the oil depot has been passed on to the Ukrainian Defense Forces. Meanwhile, unidentified drones continue to terrorize European cities. The airport in Hanover, Germany, suspended operations due to an unidentified UAV. It was spotted by pilots who were approaching to land a passenger plane. According to preliminary reports, this drone was flying over the industrial zone. As a result, air traffic was interrupted for about 45 minutes, and 3 planes had to be redirected to other airports. Several other flights were delayed, and this is already the 3rd such incident in Germany in less than a week, according to Deutsche Welle. Well, Russia will continue to pose a threat to Europe and the world even after the war against Ukraine ends. This was stated by NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte at the Alliance Forum in Bucharest. He emphasized the need to strengthen pan-European security and called on all countries to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP.
Speaker 3, we need capabilities, we need equipment, real firepower, and of course, the most advanced technologies. Because the threats we face are real and long-term. Russia's unprovoked war against Ukraine is the most obvious example of this threat. But the danger posed by Russia will not disappear with the end of this war. In the foreseeable future, Russia will remain a destabilizing force in Europe and the world.
The Russian dictator personally asked U.S. President Donald Trump for help with the war against Ukraine, which Russia has been unable to end for more than 10 years. The head of the White House spoke about this at a business forum in Miami. According to Trump, the conversation with Putin took place about 2 weeks ago. The American president noted that he had managed to resolve some similar issues in just an hour, and, as he put it, without any help from the UN.
Speaker 4, Speaker 3, I spoke with Putin 2 weeks ago, and he told me, we've been trying to resolve the war for 10 years, but we haven't succeeded. Now it's up to you to settle it. I've resolved similar issues in just an hour, without any help from the UN.
U.S. President Donald Trump can still force the Russian dictator Putin to come to the negotiating table. This opinion was expressed by the UK Defence Minister John Healey. He also emphasized that Ukraine's partners from the coalition of willing countries are constantly updating their joint strategy to ensure peace in Ukraine after the fighting ends.
Speaker, President Trump is the one who can bring Putin to the negotiating table and potentially put an end to the war. We are constantly updating our joint efforts to be ready to help secure peace when the right moment comes. John Healey, UK Defence Minister, in a comment to Politico.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.